So I had a problem that I think a lot of people get when they start to get unexpectedly successful, right? Is that they're like, oh, a brand isn't just a logo. So I educated myself through learning about what you were building and then realized I was an idiot and knew nothing about this. So
all right. Hey, everyone. Reed Perez here, CEO and founder of Branding for the People. And I'm excited to welcome this amazing human being, Suzanne Evans, for my next series of sort of where are they now? You know, some interviews with some of my private clients and talk about their experience in the branding journey. And perhaps you'll learn something new if you're thinking about going through the branding process or want to get some inspiration about your brand and branding. So, Suzanne, why don't I officially welcome you and actually, I do want to say a few words about you. So Suzanne and I actually was at the very beginning of my journey when I left the corporate world and I got into this whole world of entrepreneurship. I was actually first a client of Suzanne, where I joined her high-level mastermind and actually bought one of her programs. I saw her speak in an event and I was like, I got to work with this one.
Great story.
This is in New York. So we go back. And so this conversation is going to be, mostly talking about Suzanne's experience in the branding process. But yeah, Suzanne, why don't you say a little bit about you and all of what you're doing today?
Yeah, well, I've always been Suzanne Evans, but my company has evolved a bit since we first started working together, and I'm sure we'll talk about that in the brand conversation. But my company is Driven Inc., and we are a marketing consulting and small business coaching business for entrepreneurs, typically under 10 employees in the service-based profession. And we have some different verticals as well, from a video production company to we do outside sales for some folks to a speaker training division. And yeah, I mean, I think as we talk about this brand experience, we've been very fortunate to land on the Inc. 500, 5,000 for 5 straight years as fastest growing companies in America. I have a New York Times bestselling book called The Way You Do Anything is the Way You Do Everything. Now, all of that is really a part of the brand journey and the brand conversation, which we can chat about. But today we are still doing exactly pretty much what we have been doing. I now just do it trying to wrangle a 4-year-old.
So usually the question I start off with is like, what was the problem that you were trying to solve before hiring Branding for the People? But
well, I can answer that though, but
yeah.
I can't. I can't because here's the problem. Because I had a problem I didn't know was a problem, and I think that's an interesting conversation.
Yeah.
Because you hired me, and obviously, as I began to understand what you had done as a brander and kind of the corporate, life that you had, right. I was like, no one's really doing this in our world. I mean, there were some people kind of playing at it, but I was like, oh, the coaching space and the expert space and the and kind of that world, that industry, I don't think we know what branding really is. And at that time, no one really did. So my problem was I was like so many entrepreneurs. I was an accidental entrepreneur. I mean, I kind of wanted to do something, and I really wanted to just replace my day job. And I thought of myself as having a practice. And then, of course, as the business grew, I was like, oh my gosh, Vistaprint is not a brand, right? Like, so I had a problem that I think a lot of people get when they start to get unexpectedly successful, right? Is that they're like, oh, a brand isn't just a logo. So I educated myself through learning about what you were building and then realized I was an idiot and knew nothing about this. So I think that's kind of interesting because I think a lot of people don't know what branding is. They don't understand what branding is. And they think they hired somebody to get a logo, so they think they have a brand.
Right.
So I had a problem I didn't know I had, and you educated me on the problem.
Yeah, that's interesting. So I love that response and that answer. And in truth be told, you have a lot of experience. You have the drive and the passion, and you're really a marketing, whatever term we want to use, genius, guru, expert.
Use genius. I love that. Yeah, that's great.
We'll go with genius. So you had that, and this is a really interesting conversation for a lot of clients and even prospects or people in general who've mastered marketing or who are really good at marketing. And then you add in this whole other layer of branding that can really change the game for someone who's really great at marketing. And so I love that response. It's like, it's kind of like you didn't know that it was a problem that you had because you were doing quite well without branding, right? I like to say, if anything, you had a brand by default. You had a perception by default, and sort of the shift was actually being a bit more intentional and strategic about what is the desired perception that you want to create that is going to attract this new, at the time, this new direction of audiences that you wanted to attract. Would you say that's a fair sort of recap in that time frame if we kind of go back 10 years ago?
Absolutely. I think I had a personality brand. I had created a personality. So when I was showing up and speaking, or I was writing copy, or whatever I was doing, something had emerged, but I didn't have a visual representation and a through line that brand carried out into an experience when I wasn't present. And I think that's something a brand does really beautifully, is when you aren't present, it represents you. That I didn't have. When I was there and I was showing up, I think there was a Suzanne brand. So what you really did was came in and took what was already there. And I think that's the best branding, is to exploit what is already there. Right. And so you took that personality that I was using in my speaking and in my connection, in my writing, and my talking, and then you turned it into a feeling, a visual experience. As some of you may know, we do, before the world got turned on its head, we did a ton of in-person events. And you turn those event experience into brand. So it just carried out throughout the entire company, throughout the entire business. As you know, my offices have always been brand. You haven't been in our new office space, but back in the day, you'd come for a consulting day, and like the napkins were branded.
The cups, the napkins, everything was branded.
Mugs. And it's still like that in our new brand in the new office. You just haven't been there because you won't come see anyone. But anyway, so I had a personality brand. It wasn't in any context.
Right. Yeah, that's a great response. So let me go back, because this is a really, I think, important line of questioning, which is, now granted, I was in your world, I was in your ecosystem, and you got sort of an intimate understanding of what I do, because you gave me the opportunity to sort of teach about what I do. And a lot of service providers, coaches, experts, it's not always guaranteed that they're going to hire their clients, right? Sometimes they don't. Sometimes it's like, hey, let's keep those separate. But you made a conscious choice to say, hey, you know what? Not only he's a client, but let me actually hire him. Why did you ultimately choose deciding working with me and my agency versus all the other resources that you had available to you?
Well, it's interesting. When I became aware that I was brand illiterate, right? And so I knew that the business was growing and we needed to brand. I actually thought about, okay, he's a client. Is that messy? And is he the best? Right? I mean, because at this point, I want to have the best. And there was a few reasons that we went with branding for the people. One of them was I wrote a New York Times bestselling book called The Way You Do Anything is the Way You Do Everything. And I really believe that if an individual or an agency can't show up and you immediately know what they stand for in conversation, they're never going to be able to get what you stand for. And I always have thought that about you, Ree, right? Whether it's Ree Perez, the individual, or branding for the people, the agency. So that's one of the things that I was very drawn to. The other thing that I was very drawn to was your certainty in the fact that I'm very clear about what I do and what I know, but you're very clear and certain about what you do. And that line between marketing and branding, yes, it needs to blur at times, but at times it also needs to separate. Right. And I think that was another reason. And then the third reason was I loved your work, right? I mean, at the end of the day, we can be the most sophisticated business people on the planet, but we like pretty things, right? And we like cool things, and we like creative things, and I like cool, creative, beautiful things. And what you were creating was cool, creative, and beautiful. And not only from your past work life, but what you created for your own brand. I mean,
Yeah.
I tell people this all the time. They say, do you think I should go with this brand company? I say, what do you think about that brand company's brand? And they're like, it's okay. Then don't go with them, right? I loved what you created for yourself. And so I thought if he did this for himself, hopefully I can get a little bit of that.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. Yeah. So that's an interesting point because, I'm always an advocate of sort of practice what you preach. That's just sort of my MO. And many branders are like, well, we're too busy branding our clients. We really don't really have time to brand ourselves. But for me, it is a representation. Like how I show up should be representative, because if I'm teaching that to other people, I should adopt that myself.
I'm a business coach. When people come to me and say, I'm a business coach and they're not doing that well, they go, well, I haven't done that well for myself, but I am great in telling other people what to do. No, that's stupid. Shut up. No, it doesn't make any sense. If you can't do it for yourself, you can't do it for other people.
Right. Yeah. Or it's like coaches who don't have coaches, right? It's so out of integrity, right?
Exactly.
Okay, cool. So the other question I want to ask, and this is really helpful for people who are like, because branding is so elusive. People have their own understanding of branding, or they think it is just about a logo. So let's just say we get past that it's more than a logo. If you can sort of illustrate what the process was like, because people were like, what's the process? What made the process effective for you, or what about the process that you thought was like, oh, this is actually different, that I actually feel confident that on the other side, at the end of the process, I'm going to get the desired outcome that I want?
Well, I was very fortunate because we went through our initial branding. Then I had to work with a lot of my clients. And so I got to be a part of some of their branding. And then, of course, we rebranded, and you were a part of that as well. And so for us, for me, I loved the intensity of it. Now, some people might go, well, I thought I'd show up and give you 3 ideas and you go away and create designs. But there's an intensity in drilling down on the who are you? What do you stand for? What do you want to be said about you when you leave a room? It's almost legacy work. And that's the experience I think that we felt, because a brand and a look and a feel and a perception it's like a scent. It lingers long after the bacon has been eaten.
Great.
Right?
Yeah.
And so it stays. And so your team and you do this fascinating and incredible and intense experience of finding out, like, how do we get to the legacy place? Because that's where things linger.
I love that. And here's the thing, this is a little bit of a kudos to you as well, because, a lot of my clients have strong personalities. A lot of our clients are successful without me. And they often have like sort of like a way about how they do things, and they're so confident and sure of what they do. And I think some of the best collaboration is when, whether it's me or someone else you're hiring, but I think some of the best collaboration is when you allow another person to contribute to you, not as an order taker, but as someone who's going to, one, get who you are, and also challenge you and push you further. So I think you were that kind of client. And this is really, this is kind of a suggestion as for fun to be on the receiving end of it. Allow yourself to be led and bring all of what you have so that people get you, but allow yourself to uncover what you don't know and learn about the branding process, because it's the learning piece that you're going to also take with you on how to build a brand ongoingly, even outside of our engagement. Is that a fair?
Yeah, I mean, I think you only uncover who you are by being challenged around who you are not. And you can't read the label from inside the jar. And so somebody has to do that. You have to go, here's what, we all type A busy entrepreneurs show up and go, here's our values and here's what we stand for. And we took a class on this. So we wrote it all down and this is what we are. But it's when somebody gets into a dialogue and a conversation about, well, what does that mean? Well, and if this, then that.
Right.
And if you say that's what you stand for, but visually this is what we're seeing, and if those are not congruent, how does that show up? Right. And I will also admit, and I say this out of joy, not out of negativity, it can be frustrating process because you think you know who you are. You truly come in thinking you know who you are, and you get needled and you get prodded and you get poked and you get inspired. And through that process, you go, that's who I thought I needed to be,
Right.
not necessarily who I am. And
Right.
in the uncovering of who you are is where that perception and essence is created, and where that opportunity takes place.